The stranger in rags. The sun was setting over the dusty colony. Jace wiped the sweat from his forehead and tossed his toolkit into the back of his old cargo truck. Another long day of fixing broken water lines and rusted gates was finally over. He was just about to drive home when he saw something strange near the outer fence. At first it looked like a pile of rags, but then it moved. He squinted. There, just beyond the fence, a figure was slowly crawling toward the colony gate. The person looked weak, thin, barely able to stand. Jace grabbed his flashlight and walked over. As he got closer, he realized it wasn't a human. It was an alien woman. Her skin was a soft lavender color, but bruises and dirt covered most of it. Her white dress, if it could even be called that, was torn, soaked in mud, and barely hanging together. Her long silver hair was tangled and full of dust. She looked no older than Jace, maybe mid-20s in human years. Her eyes met his. They were large, violet, and full of something he hadn't seen in a long time, pure desperation. Before he could say a word, the alien woman dropped to her knees with a heavy thud. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked, dry like sand. "Please," she begged, tears falling down her cheeks. "Please. Marry me." Jace froze. "What?" She looked down, breathing hard. I have nowhere to go. No food, no family. If you don't, they'll take me, and I'll die." Jace's heart pounded. "Slow down, who are you? What's going on?" She raised her trembling head. "My name is Leora. I was abandoned." Abandoned? That word hit Jace hard. He had seen abandoned things before, broken machines, animals left to starve. But a living, breathing person? Leora tried to stand, but fell again. Her knees were scraped. Her hands shook. She was weak, like she hadn't eaten in days. Jace knelt beside her. "You need help, not marriage." She flinched at the word help. "There is no help for my kind," she whispered. "Not here." He looked around. A few people had started to gather near the fence, watching from a distance. Some pointed. Some laughed. No one came closer. Jace took off his jacket and gently draped it over her shoulders. "Come with me. You can rest. I'll get you some water." Leora's eyes widened in shock. You're not afraid of me?" "No," he said firmly. "You're not a monster." Her lips quivered. She hadn't heard those words in a long time. He helped her to her feet, holding her gently. She was light as a feather. Every bone in her body felt fragile. Together they walked slowly toward his truck. Behind them, whispers filled the air. Did he just touch her? Why would he help that thing? Is he crazy? But Jace didn't care. He opened the passenger door and helped her inside. She sat quietly, eyes closed, hugging his jacket tightly. On the way to his home, Jace glanced at her now and then. She didn't speak. Her head rested against the window. Her breathing was slow, almost like she was afraid to relax. When they arrived, at his small house near the edge of the colony, he opened the door for her and guided her inside. It wasn't much, just one bedroom, a kitchen, and a work table, but it was warm. It was safe. He brought her a glass of clean water and some bread. She stared at the food like it was a gift from the stars. Then she slowly took the first bite. Her hands shook the whole time. "You can stay here tonight," Jace said gently. "I'll try to understand more tomorrow. Just rest." Leora looked up at him. Her eyes still shimmered with fear. But now, something else was there too. Hope. "You're kind," she said softly. He gave a small smile. "Just human. A law that kills." The morning sun peeked through the old curtain. Jace stood by the stove pouring hot tea into 2 metal cups. Behind him, the sound of quiet breathing reminded him this wasn't a normal day. On the small couch in his living room, Leora slept curled up, wrapped in his old blanket. She hadn't moved much during the night, but her body had stopped shaking. Her face looked peaceful now, tired, but safe. He placed the tea down and stepped outside. He needed answers. Down at the colony's office, the guards watched him closely. Jace wasn't a troublemaker, but bringing an alien woman into your home wasn't something people ignored. Colonist Rule 17 was clear. Aliens with no sponsor, family, or job must be registered and removed within 72 hours. But Jace wasn't prepared for what he learned next. "She has only 2 days left," said Officer Bryn coldly, reading from a datapad. "Unclaimed aliens are listed for termination after the countdown ends." Jace blinked. "Termination? You, Mina, killed?" Bryn didn't flinch. "It's the law, to avoid burdening the colony. No identification, no sponsor, no value." "Are you serious?" Jace snapped. Bryn shrugged. "She was probably thrown out by her clan. Might have been defective. Maybe unable to bear young. Doesn't matter. Her time runs out soon unless what? You marry her." Jace's jaw tightened. Back at home, Leora sat up on the couch. Her eyes opened slowly. She saw, the cup of tea still warm. She held it gently, breathing in the scent. The door opened. Jace walked in with heavy steps. "They want to kill you," he said flatly. Leora didn't look surprised. She just lowered her head. "I know," she whispered. "Why didn't you tell me? Would you have helped me if I did?" Jace didn't answer. Leora stared at the floor. "Where I come from, women like me are no longer wanted. I was supposed to marry a nobleman. But when his doctors found out I was barren, his family rejected me. My own clan threw me out." "That's sick," Jace said. She gave a weak smile. "It's survival. On my world, if you can't give life, you're not considered alive." Jace felt a knot in his chest. How could someone be judged for something out of their control? They said. The only way I could escape death was if someone chose me, took me into their home, made me their wife. Her voice cracked on the last word. "I walked for 2 days through the desert, hoping someone would listen, but no one did until you." Jace rubbed his face. His mind raced. "You have 48 hours, Leora." She closed her eyes. "Then let me thank you now, for giving me this one night. A warm blanket, a safe place, kindness." Jace sat across from her. "I don't want it to be your last night. You don't have to pretend." "I'm not pretending." She opened her eyes. For the first time they held something more than fear, confusion. Jace stood up and paced. "Look, I don't know you, but I don't think people should die just because they were thrown away. If this planet's law says someone has to marry you to stop it, then maybe it's the law that's broken." He turned toward her. "But I also don't want to marry someone out of pity." She nodded slowly. "Then don't." "Then what do we do?" She looked out the window, then down at her trembling hands. "You walk away," she said softly. "And I disappear." Silence filled the room, but Jace couldn't walk away. Not now. The next day he went back to the colony's main building. He filled out the first form, then the second. By the time the sun had set, Leora's name was off the termination list. She didn't know it yet. That night, Jace stood outside his home looking at the stars. The weight of his decision pressed on his shoulders. Inside, Leora watched him quietly through the window. She held the empty teacup in her hands, her fingers tracing the rim. She knew something had changed, but she didn't dare ask. Not yet. The hidden past that night, the wind was quiet, but Jace's mind was loud. He stood on the porch staring at the stars above the colony. His hands were stuffed into his pockets. Somewhere in his chest, confusion and anger wrestled each other. Anger at the law, and confusion about the strange feeling he felt for the alien woman inside his house. She wasn't just another refugee. Something about her felt different. Behind him, the door creaked. Leora stood in the doorway, barefoot, wearing one of Jace's oversized shirts that nearly reached her knees. Her silver hair had been cleaned, now falling soft and shiny over her shoulders, but her eyes were still the same, haunted and tired. I didn't mean to cause you trouble, she said quietly. You didn't, Jace replied, not looking at her. Yes, I did. You filled out the marriage forms today. Jace turned. You knew? I may be abandoned, but I'm not blind. I saw the papers. He walked back into the house and sat down at the small table. Leora followed, standing across from him. Why? Are you really here? He asked. Not just to escape death, there's something more. She looked away. Silence filled the room. Then she spoke. Her voice was steady, but soft. My full name is Leora Talvan of House Myrrh. Jace blinked. That sounds important. It was. My house once ruled 3-star sectors. We were royal blood. My father was a war general, my mother a diplomat. I was trained from childhood to be a bride for alliance. Jace listened closely. This wasn't just an abandoned woman. She had once been part of something powerful. Was to marry the prince of House Zyril, she continued. It was arranged. I did everything they asked. I learned languages, studied history, even practiced their rituals. So what happened? They tested me. Jace frowned. For what? She swallowed hard. To see if I could carry heirs. I failed. My body is different. Too thin. Too fragile, they said. So they rejected you because you couldn't have children? Yes. But it wasn't just them. My own family, too. I became a political risk. My father said I was now a shame to the blood. My mother told me not to return. I was placed on a trade ship and dropped near your colony. Jace's chest felt tight. No one deserved that. Not for something like that. Leora kept her eyes on the floor. I know I should have died quietly. I should have disappeared. That's what they wanted. But I couldn't do it. Something in me refused. I walked and walked, hoping maybe a human would see me not as broken, but alive. And that's why you begged for marriage, I thought. If I became someone's wife, I'd have a name again, a place, a reason to breathe. Jace leaned forward. You don't need a marriage to be someone. In your world, maybe not, she whispered. In mine, you're either chosen or forgotten. The room grew silent again. Then Jace asked, Do you miss them? Leora's lips trembled. No, she lied, but her eyes told the truth. Later that night, as Leora lay on the couch staring at the ceiling, she heard the soft sound of Jace working. He was in the next room, fixing something at his workbench. She turned her head and watched from the open door. He looked focused, tired, and human. Nothing like the proud nobles or cruel aliens from her past. And yet, something about him made her chest ache in a strange way, not pain, not fear, something warm. The next morning, Jace placed a small box on the table in front of her. What is it? She asked. A communicator, he said. I built it last night. Simple, no tracking, just one button. She picked it up carefully. If anything happens, if I'm not here, press it. I'll come. Leora stared at the device, then looked up at him. No one's ever come for me before, she whispered. Jace smiled, small but honest. Now someone will. The human choice. For the first time in years, Leora felt warm when she opened her eyes. The small house was quiet. Soft morning light touched the walls. The air smelled like roasted grain and old tools. Jace wasn't in the room, but a fresh cup of tea sat beside her. Steam still rose from it. He always did that, left kindness without words. She sat up slowly, still wrapped in the blanket he had given her on the first night. It smelled like metal and wood, and something safe. Then the knock came. Not one knock. 3. Sharp bangs. The door rattled. Leora froze. A shadow moved outside the window. Jace returned minutes later, carrying groceries under one arm and a new thermal blanket in the other. He stopped cold when he saw the colony enforcer vehicle parked outside his house. Officer Bryn stood by the door, arms crossed, his cold eyes locked on Jace. Inside, Leora sat quietly, hands in her lap. You made a mistake, Jace, Bryn said. As the human approached, "I did what I thought was right," Jace replied calmly. Bryn leaned closer. "You took in an unclaimed alien. That's already enough to get you investigated. But now? Now they say you're considering marriage? To her?" Jace narrowed his eyes. "She's not a crime." "She's a risk," Bryn hissed. "A rejected alien with no future, no value, and a powerful past. Do you have any idea what the nobles might do if they find out she's alive?" Jace didn't back down. "She's not hiding. She's surviving." Bryn pulled out a black folder. "Here's your final notice. You have 24 hours to confirm the marriage on record, or she gets deported. And you lose your work license for aiding a fugitive." Leora heard every word from inside. Her hands trembled. That night, Jace didn't say much. He sat at the edge of the table, staring at the folder Bryn had left behind. Leora finally spoke. "I can leave." Jace looked up sharply. "No. You don't have to choose between me and your life." He shook his head. "You are part of my life now. But I'm a stranger." "You're not," Jace said, voice low. "Not anymore." Leora stood, walked over, and sat across from him. "You'll lose everything." "Maybe," he said. "And what do I give in return?" Jace looked at her for a long time, then said simply, "Someone to fight for." She went silent. She had heard many things in her life, commands, insults, lies, but no one had ever said that. No one had ever wanted her enough to risk anything. Later, when the stars rose, Leora stepped outside and stared at the sky. Her bare feet touched the cool ground. The wind moved softly through her silver hair. Behind her, Jace walked out and stood next to her. "I want to tell you something," he said quietly. She turned her head. "I didn't grow up with much, no rich family, no titles. But I always believed one thing. No one should face the world alone." She looked away. "That's not how my people think." "Well, you're not with them now." She blinked back sudden tears. "Do you mean it?" she asked. "Would you still choose me, even if it cost you everything?" He didn't answer with words. He held out his hand. She looked at it, hesitated, then slowly placed her hand in his. Fingers laced together, alien and human. Two broken souls holding on to something new. Something worth choosing. The next day, Jace walked into the colony office. Bryn stood waiting with a smirk. "Changed your mind?" Jace dropped the signed form on the table. "No," he said. "I made it." The wedding in the dust. The wind blew gently across the open plain outside the colony. There was no music, no guests, no celebration, just the soft rustle of dust, and two people standing quietly under the broken metal arch near Jace's workshop. Jace wore his cleanest jacket and boots, though both were still old and scratched. Leora wore a simple robe, stitched together from pieces of cloth he had saved over the years. It wasn't a gown. It wasn't beautiful. But on her it looked perfect. Her silver hair was brushed, tied with a strip of fabric. Her violet eyes looked calm, not happy, not sad, just present. Between them stood an old colony registrar, a retired mechanic who agreed to witness the union after everyone else refused. He cleared his throat. By colony law, this marriage gives mutual protection, shared rights, and one name under human record. Do you both agree? Jace looked at Leora. "Do," he said. Leora's lips parted. Her voice was soft, but this time it didn't shake. "I do." The witness nodded. "Then it's done." He signed the form, stamped it, and gave them a small, chipped data disk. "Copy of the certificate," he said. "No turning back now." Then he left them alone. For a moment, neither Jace nor Leora moved. The dust swirled around them, dry and silent. Then she turned to him. "You really did it," she whispered. "So did you." "I don't know how to be a wife," she admitted. "I don't know how to be a husband either," he replied with a half smile. They stood facing each other, strangers, but also something more. Jace reached out and gently touched her hand. "We'll figure it out." That evening, back at the house, the silence between them wasn't heavy anymore. It was soft, like a warm blanket shared between two people who didn't need to talk to feel understood. Jace made dinner, heated grain cakes, and thick broth. Leora helped, slowly learning the names of human spices and laughing quietly when she poured too much salt. They sat together at the small table, eating from the same plate. No one came to knock on the door. No one sent messages of congratulations, but neither of them cared. Leora looked around the tiny house and said something that surprised even herself. "This is more than I ever had." Jace raised his eyebrows. "Even with all your royal past?" "Yes," she said. "This house, these cracked walls, and this quiet, none of it is fake." She turned her gaze toward him. "It's real, and I've never had real before." Jace didn't say anything. He just passed her a second piece of bread. Later that night, the lights were dimmed. Jace lay on the floor using a rolled-up coat as a pillow. Leora stayed on the couch, wrapped in her now familiar blanket. They spoke softly in the dark. "What did you dream of before all this?" she asked. Jace thought for a moment. "To build something that lasts." She smiled in the dark. "Maybe you already did." He turned his head toward her. "What about you?" "I used to dream about escaping," she said. "Now I dream about staying." The moonlight slipped through the window. Outside, the colony still whispered and judged. But inside this tiny house, two souls found something stronger than rules or bloodlines. They found each other. The uprising begins. For a few quiet days, Jace and Leora lived in peace. She cleaned the house, learning how to use the strange human machines. Jace taught her how to fix wires and sort tools. They shared simple meals, sat together at night, and said little. But the silence between them wasn't empty. It was safe. But peace never lasts in a place where rules are stronger than hearts. The first warning came when Jace found his work locker smashed open. The second came when he saw the red symbol painted across his home's outer wall. Traitor. Jace stared at the word without speaking. He didn't need to ask who did it. People had been whispering since the marriage was filed. A human man marrying a rejected alien was an insult to colony, pride. To them, Jace had broken some invisible wall, but Leora, she blamed herself. "They hate you because of me," she whispered that night, looking at the floor. "They hate me because they don't understand," he replied. "But I don't want you to get hurt. You're worth the risk." The third warning wasn't paint or silence. It was fire. One night, while Jace was at the repair yard, a bottle smashed through the workshop window. Flames burst across the tools and wires, catching oil and rags. Smoke filled the sky. Leora saw it from the house and ran barefoot into the night. People just stood and watched, some even smiled. But Leora didn't stop. She grabbed a pipe, broke the door open, and dragged out a small water tank. She sprayed it on the fire with shaking hands until her skin blistered. When Jace arrived, the fire was out, but Leora lay unconscious beside the smoking rubble. He carried her to the medical tent himself. The nurse looked at her burns and scowled. "Alien blood. Why waste supplies?" Jace growled. "Because she's my wife." The room went quiet. Even the nurse backed away. By the time Leora woke up, Jace had already rebuilt part of the workshop. His hands were burned, but he didn't. "Stop." She touched his hand gently. "They'll try again." "I know. They want me gone." "I know. Then send me away." Jace looked her in the eyes. "No." Word spread fast. The alien woman had put out the fire with her own hands. Some called it stupid. Others called it brave. But for one young alien girl, it was something else. Hope. She appeared at their door one morning, thin as a stick, with big orange eyes, and a cracked collar on her neck. "My family left me," she whispered. "Can I go stay here too?" Leora pulled her close. "Yes, You can. That same week, 2 more arrived. An elderly alien male with scars on his back, and a one-armed widow whose home had been stolen. They didn't ask for marriage. They asked for kindness, and Jace and Leora gave it. The colony leaders were furious. "She's building a shelter," someone yelled. "She's gathering aliens, forming a group." But the truth was, it wasn't a group. It was a family, and humans started to notice. One by one, quiet neighbors began helping. A loaf of bread here, a blanket there, a doctor who looked the other way, a worker who fixed their fence at night. It wasn't loud, it wasn't fast, but it was growing. Then came the knock. Not angry fists, not flames. This time, soldiers. 3 armored enforcers, standing outside with orders from the colony command. By authority of planetary code, the alien known as Leora Talven is hereby wanted by her homeworld. Her presence threatens political stability. She must be surrendered immediately. Jace stood in the doorway, blocking their path. "She's my wife. She's also a fugitive. She's mine. You'll have to go through me." The lead enforcer stepped forward. "If you refuse, you will be marked as a rebel." Jace's fists clenched, then a voice behind him spoke. "She's my sister." Everyone turned. It was the one-armed alien widow. "She's my child," said the old male. "She saved me," whispered the little girl. And one by one, voices rose. "She gave me food. She gave me hope. She gave me a name." By the end, 10 people stood between Jace and the soldiers, humans and aliens alike. The enforcers looked around, outnumbered, unwanted. They left in silence. The uprising had begun, not with weapons, not with war, but with a choice to stand together. From beggar to beloved, Leora once begged in the dirt. She remembered the pain in her knees as she knelt, hands shaking, voice dry. "Please, marry me," she had whispered to a stranger. That day, she was just a shadow, unwanted, broken, forgotten. Now, she stood tall, not behind Jace, but beside him. The small yard outside their house was no longer empty. A large canvas stretched between poles provided shade. Beneath it, people, alien and human, worked together, repairing tools, preparing meals, and sharing stories. What started as one act of kindness had grown into something no law had expected, a home for the abandoned. They called it the outpost. To some, it was just a few tents and a broken fence. To others, it was the first place where no one asked what you were, only who you were becoming. Jace stood by the gate, hammering a sign into place. Leora watched him, smiling softly. He hadn't changed much on the outside. Same tired boots, same sharp jaw, same quiet voice. But inside, she knew. This man had become her anchor. She walked over, her hand resting on his. "What should the sign say?" he asked. She thought for a moment, then whispered, "Where broken things heal." He grinned. Perfect. But peace still had a price. The noble houses from Leora's planet had finally responded. A formal request arrived through the colony council. Return the traitor. She was a threat now. Not for what she had done, but for what she had inspired. Jace read the message in silence. "If I leave, they'll stop hunting you," Leora said. "No," he replied. "If I stay, they may come for everyone. We'll stand, even if it ends badly." Jace looked her in the eyes. "I'd rather die with you than live without you." Days later, a diplomatic ship landed outside the colony walls, sleek, silver, silent. From it stepped a tall alien official, cold eyes, golden armor, and a scroll in hand. He demanded an audience. The colony leaders gathered nervously. Everyone expected fear. Instead, they found resistance, not from soldiers, but from people. Dozens of colonists stood at the outpost gates, farmers, engineers, even old guards blocking the path. The alien official stepped forward, raising the scroll. Leora Talven, former noble, classed as infertile, deemed unfit, she must return. Jace stepped forward. She has a name, a life, and a family. She's property of the Myrrh bloodline. Not anymore. She belongs to us. Leora stepped forward too, her voice clear. I never belonged to you. I was never a thing. To own, the official sneered. You are nothing without your blood. Leora looked around, at the little girl hugging her blanket, at the wounded widow teaching others to cook, at the alien elder fixing a radio beside a human boy, and at Jace, her partner, her husband, her beginning. She smiled. I am everything now. The ship left empty. No force, no war, only silence. They had lost her forever. Months passed. The outpost grew. New buildings, new voices, even new laws, written by both species together. And one day, under a brighter sky, Leora stood on a wooden stage, holding a small book. She had written it herself, its title, From Beggar to Beloved. She read aloud the first lines to a crowd gathered below. I was once unwanted, not by strangers, but by my own blood. I was called useless, empty, ashamed. But a human gave me a name, not wife, not burden, just Leora, and in doing so, he gave me life. Jace stood at the back, arms crossed, watching her. Not with pride, but with awe, because the woman who had once crawled through dirt now stood in sunlight, strong, loved, free.